Yep. All right, so welcome to General Assembly 2026. This is what, I'm just gonna read this out loud. This was an email that I sent out, and I think it's a good place to start. The 2026 General Assembly calls us to align is a key word, with greater integrity by embodying what we teach. This weekend focuses on aligning imagination, need, desire, emotion, and the body so our inner lives match our outer leadership. Rooted in the biblical metaphor of the mustard seed and the house built on a rock, we affirm that spiritual strength comes from stability, clarity, and daily practice. Together, we commit to cultivating peace, openness, confidence, and strength as the foundation for the school metaphysics in the year ahead. So this weekend, we're focusing on really aligning, knowing, first of all, the big focus is on being creators and imagining. So tonight, Dr. Daniel is going to be talking about, his title is Imagination is Everything. And so in that, well, we'll see what he has to say about that as we go down.
Isn't that a great title? Isn't that one? Imagination is everything.
Mm-hmm.
That gets you thinking, right there, right?
Oh, you want to?
Yep,
Oh.
very good.
I'm gonna be talking about everything.
What time? Is it 9 or 19?
10:15, whatever that is.
And I think that where I'm landing on that, imagination is everything, is, I mean, there are things that I want to manifest, like real things I want to manifest, like, you know, a little bit more toned body. Like, that is one thing that's really important to me. And it's like, how do you, something as simple as that, like a more toned body. So I could do it like I did before, which is go spend 2 hours in the gym every single day. I've done that before and I've been happy with the results, but I've been there, done that.
That's a lot of work.
It is. I want to do it a little bit different. Well, in all seriousness, it is. I'm not, and I've done that. I've accomplished that, and it has produced. But to your point, I want to do it a different way now.
Right.
And the different way is, instead of going to, you know, use this external thing like lifting weights and things like that, which there's nothing wrong with. Like I said, I've done it. I think that the way that I want to switch that now is I want to live it, like be it, feel it, become it from the inside out, instead of having to have this outside thing. I guess put a kind of pressure on me, which it's not, I mean, you need it until you don't, but I want to feel into and live that outward expression. And that's what I think this weekend is all about, is us aligning with who we want to become and bring that into reality. Okay. And then we're going to, you know, step by step discuss different aspects of being a creator. Tomorrow morning, Dr. Diana is going to lead a discussion, or the title of her lecture is Overview of the Steps of Manifestation with a Focus on Need. And then Mavis is going to be talking about desire and the capacity to receive. And then we're going to have lunch, and then at 1:45 I am going to be talking about feeling your way into the embodiment of the desired image. And then Dr. Carey is the commitment to daily exercises. And then we'll have other things. Brandon's going to bring the light topic of financial abundance.
Right.
And then tomorrow night, you'll all have an opportunity then to kind of bring everything together and then talk about it yourself, like what you image that you want in your schools. And there's some specific questions about that. So everything we're talking about this weekend is going to lead to part of what you're imaging for your schools. But as you do that, it's also what you're really imaging for yourself and who you want to become. It's not just about doing this thing as the director in the School of Metaphysics. It's you becoming more of your essence. I'm trying to think if I want to say anything else about this right now.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I was asleep. I guess you can call it sleep, but I was in that state, and I received something that was, I'm still working it through my consciousness, it's profound. I pay attention to things like, I watch movies, TV shows, stories. So a lot of them talk about the multiverse and time travel and stuff like that. And I guess that's partly what was on my mind, but in a practical sense, I saw that there's a way that being focused in the present moment opens up it doesn't open it up, it actually collapses the distance, right? So we all consider or think about distance, think about that I'm sitting over here, Dr. Daniel's over there, we're not in the same seat, blah, blah, blah. Okay. We're not the same person, stuff like that can come up in the mind. And that's important for us to be able to create. So we all have different schools, right? So we're working together to create and become one. And this idea, I guess I can just call it an idea that came to me, was that also being focused in the present moment is time travel. Because when you're so focused, or when you are clear about what is happening right now in one moment, then you can see what got you to where you are, and you can also see where you're going, or experience it, or know it, or realize it, whatever word you want to use. So you can see and feel and sense and know everything. So the present moment isn't limited. I think sometimes that's the way it could be portrayed or thought about, but it actually expands out when you're in the present moment. So it's just something that came to me that I thought was really important.
Thank you. Dr.
That
Daniel.
stimulated thought in me. From a higher mind perspective, it's impossible to do time travel because all there is the present moment.
Right.
I never thought that was impossible to time
Right.
travel because all there is the present moment.
Yeah. So that distance collapses when you're focused in the present.
Collapses into the infinite.
Right.
I always looked at time travel as where your current focus is here in the now. If you can learn to move your focus to another time, then you can go to that time and be in that time.
Yeah. And
So
from the higher mind
It's
perspective,
impossible.
There is no time.
Right.
there's just
Eternal.
But then we have to, if we all lived like that, we wouldn't have a school. And everybody that we teach or people that we want to attract wouldn't have anything to come to.
Oh, they would, because everybody would want to come to the school of the eternal now.
Of the
instead
eternal
present
now.
moment.
Maybe we should change the name.
You have to change the name.
School of the eternal now.
Is that the school you want to be a part of, Zach?
For 7 years, every 6 months, I taught still mind, present moment, open heart.
Right.
And a branch would sponsor me, and I'd go to that city. And have 50 or so people there, and we have a great time. And I'd do the whole day teaching about present moment, still mind, present moment.
Right. But they had to be there at a certain time.
Still a timeline.
those are just points of reference.
Yeah, after there's a certain time, that's right. Yeah. That's part of living and working in the physical world.
Right.
Is we seem to accept certain parameters that the physical world sets on us. Separation. It's the level of mind that has the greatest separation.
Right.
So the illusion of separation is the greatest, and it is the illusion of separation, which is distance, that creates the illusion of time. So to operate in this world, it seems like we have to some degree, operate from those parameters. What I'm going to be telling you about tonight is how to operate from a higher truth so that you don't have to be a victim of the illusion. You can still work through the illusion, but you're no longer a victim of it. Victim means the environment has the power and you don't. When you can be in the world but not of it, or be like Jesus, the Buddha, then the world no longer restricts you, but you can use it, but it no longer restricts you. Because the physical world is moldable, even though our senses tell us it's not. So that's what I'm talking about tonight. That's the story.
I think Dr. Daniel, you could
Go ahead.
just go from there, right?
So, thank you. So, the great masters have taught us this, that they're not under the illusion of time and space. So if you accept the story of Jesus after the resurrection, he's right outside Jerusalem, and then he says, okay, you guys head up north, up to the Sea of Galilee, which is quite a dip, many miles, and several days journey, and I'll already be there when you get there. And he supposedly was. So he obliterated time and space in that way, distance. So we have, and miracles. When Jesus or some other person performed a miracle, what that meant, not only that the healing occurred, but if you notice when Jesus would do a healing, it happened instantaneously. So there was no time separation. Oh, take this pill and call me in the morning. Take it 3 days later, maybe 5 days later. No, it was like instantaneous. And as far as the Bible is concerned, the healing stuck. We don't know what happened to the people that were healed 10 years later, but we know that they were good to go. Even one of the greatest healings, the centurion comes up to Jesus. He's not even Hebrew or Jewish, and he says, Jesus, would you heal my son? He said, sure. He said, sure, take me to him. And the centurion said, you don't need to go to him. I'm a centurion. I command 100 men. So if I tell him to go over here and do this, engage in this fight, or arrest this guy, or get this guy, whatever I tell him to do, I just stay here and I expect him to go do it. And you are also a commander under certain authority yourself. So all you have to do is give the word just like I do. And what you do and say will cause that greater, that will cause you can cause it too, just like I do. And so then Jesus says, well, I've never seen a greater faith in all of Israel, and by your faith is he healed. And so when the centurion finished off the day and went home, evidently he didn't have to stay at the barracks. He went to his house, and his servant came out and was excited, says, your son's healed. And he said, what time of day was it? And the servant told him the exact time of day, and they said, oh, that's the time that Jesus healed him. So there was no illusion of time there. There was no illusion of space, distance. It was just the present moment. We did it all in the present moment. So faith seems to be a factor in that. It's causing that to happen. Now I want to read something to you. This will take me just a little while, but not too long. It's the first chapter of Genesis. God created heavens and the earth in the very beginning, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the breath of God moved upon the face of the water. That's how powerful breath is. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. And God called the day light, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning the first day. And God said, let. Now, there's one little word here, it's very important. Let. And all these things that God's going to create, there's the word let. For example, people miss this because it seems like an insignificant word. God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters above and the waters below. And God made the firmament and divided the waters that were underneath the firmament from the waters that were above the firmament, and it was so. And God called the firmament sky, and there was evening, and there was morning the second day. And then God said, let the waters that are under the sky be gathered together in one place, and let the dry land appear, and it was so. So it seems like all he has to do is say, let, and it is so, whatever it is. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters he called seas, and God saw that it was good. And God said, let the earth bring forth vegetation, and herb yielding seed after its kind, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after its kind, wherein is there seed upon the earth, and it was so. And the earth brought forth vegetation, the herb yielding after its kind, and the tree bearing fruit, wherein is its seed after its kind, and God saw it was good. So, when you grow trees and have an orchard seed, then, or even a garden, then you're kind of being like God. And that was the end of the third day. And God said, let, he said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven, to separate the day from the night, and let there be for signs, and for seasons, and for days and years. And let them be the lights in the firmament, and the heaven to give light, and the earth, and so it was so. And God made two great lights, a great light to rule the day, and a smaller one to rule the night, and the stars also. God set them in the firmament of the heavens to give light upon the earth. And so, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness, and God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the fourth day. And so, at the end of each day, which is when daylight comes, so that shows awareness. Light's awareness, as we understand it to be. And God said, let the waters, so he has awareness, and then he says, let. And then it happens. So what could that let be? I want you to think about that, and we'll talk about that when I just finish this chapter up. And God said, let the waters bring forth swarms of living creatures, and let fowl fly above the earth in the open firmament of the heaven. And God created great sea monsters, every living creature that moves, which the waters brought forth abundantly from their kind, and every winged fowl after its kind, and God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters and the seas, and let fowl multiply. I bet you never thought about how many lets there were in this chapter.
I sure haven't.
No, it's just full of them. So I think let may be the most important word in the first chapter of the first book of the Bible, let. And there was evening and there was morning the fifth day. And God said, let the earth bring forth living creatures after their kind, cattle and creeping things, and beasts of the earth after their kind, and it was so. And God made the beasts of the earth after their kind, and the cattle after their kind, and everything that creeps upon the earth. And so sometimes after let comes the word made, but not always. After its kind, and God saw that it was good. And God said, let us, now it's bringing us. So who's these other gods he's talking about? Let us make man in our who's the other gods, our image after our likeness, and let them. So if you wonder what that is, in Hebrew language, the word that's translated into English as God is actually Elohim, which is plural for the word El. But they used Elohim, not El, because El is singular. So it indicates a plural God, could indicate many gods, but more likely a plural God with male and female attributes. That's what that word means, Elohim. That's why it says, and our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the wild beasts of the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth. So God created man in his own image. So that's the other word, because that relates to us, man, the thing. Image. So imagination comes from the word image. So God created man in his image. In the image of God, he created man and female, he created them. So that tells you then what this quality of let means. That indicates the let part. let us. So then it says, so God created man in his image. So when he says let, it's telling you that he's using imagination and image. In the image of God, he created them, and God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the wild beasts that move upon the earth. And God said, behold, I have given you every herb yielding seed which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree which bears fruit yielding seed, to you it shall be fit for food. And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and everything that creeps upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for food, and it was so. And God saw everything he had made. See, he's made came after let, which means there's an image first. There's always an image first. And then it becomes physical or manifest or objectified. But there's always an image that he had made. And behold, it was the very good, and there was evening and there was morning, the sixth day. So why am I brought this subject up, and why Genesis? Because this is considered to be one of the greatest books in the world, and it's the first book of there. And the most important thing is saying is imagination is everything. And from imagination something is made. And without imagination nothing's made. And to have imagination we first have to have awareness, because morning came in the first day, and then there was night. The night's when we process, when we dream, when we assimilate. So we first have an awareness. Oh, I want that. I want something. I want this. I want to create this. I want to have this. I want to build. I want to make this. We have an idea, and then we take that awareness of that idea and turn it into an idea that we hold until it's a strong image, and then we produce that image in our life, and then from that image that we've produced, then that day of awareness is complete. And so then we can rest and process that through the subconscious mind, in the case while we're in the physical. God wasn't in the physical, but that's the same process. Now, so God created man in his own image. Now some people would say, well, I created man God created us with his image. But then it says, in the image of God, he created him. So that means that God gave us the same capability as he had. In the image, he created man in his own image. So that would mean with like attributes. It was in his own image. It doesn't say God imaged man, and there he was created. It said he created man first in his own image. So that means with like attributes. And then it repeats it. In the image of God means with like attributes. He created him. And what is that number one most like attribute? Well, it's to image, of course. So that's why imagination is everything. If you take the first chapter of Genesis, that's the beginning of everything, not only the whole Bible, but of all creation, then that has to be the most important thing. Of all the creation that we exist in. Maybe not as great as God, because he was the imager. But everything that God created, which is us, we exist in, that's the most important thing. And everything in our universe came from that imagination, that image. So therefore, imagination is everything. Now, you could say, well, it's not everything because it's not God. Well, Jesus said, I and the Father are one. And every enlightened person, fully enlightened, like Buddha talks about oneness. So, if they're one, they can't be separate. So therefore, imagination is everything. Do you know how the Buddha got to be the Buddha?
He was born that way.
Yeah. He came full flowering out of Zeus's third eye. Yeah. No, he did not.
Well, he was born into riches, and then wasn't it that he saw like poverty and he wanted to understand suffering?
Yeah. He saw a rich man, a poor man. No, he saw a sick man, an old man, and a dead man.
Mm-hmm.
So he saw a decrepit who was from old age, and a sick man, and a dead man. And then he wondered, oh, is this what happens to everybody? Well, Why? Why do we have to have suffering? I gotta find the solution to this. That was the solution. The way he got to, and then he went through years and years, actually 7 years, of he had to get a teacher, taught him meditation and yoga and all these things, and then he practiced it for 7 years. Almost to the point of death. I mean, he was just not, he thought maybe, at that time he thought if you ate almost nothing that you'd get enlightened or you'd overcome the body, and so he almost died that way. He said, that's not the right way. Then he found moderation, and he said, finally, and he'd be putting his body in yoga positions for hours long, you know, and finally, after almost dying of all this, he said, I think that ain't working. So then he said, I'm gonna get myself strong, and the milkmaid gave him rice and milk, and he got himself back strong. And when he was strong again, he said, I'm going to sit under this Bodhi tree until I'm enlightened. Or I'm dead, whichever way. And he got enlightened. But that's not how he got enlightened. That's not how he got enlightened at all. That was the practice, that was the activity. That's not how he got enlightened. Anybody know how he got enlightened? Imagination. He tells the story. The Buddha tells the story because once he was enlightened, he knew all of his past lives. And he said, in a past life, I met the previous Buddha, because according to Gautama the Buddha, he was the fourth Buddha, and there'd be one to follow him too. He said, I met thousands of years before, I met the previous Buddha on the road. And I was so amazed with the light around him and his countenance and his great enlightenment that I got down the mud, kissed his feet, and prayed to him, and I vowed that lifetime after lifetime, I would come back and I would pursue the ideal, the image of being a Buddha until I became a Buddha. And so the lifetime before the Buddha lifetime, he was very close to being a Buddha. There's a book called Siddhartha that kind of, it's a fiction book, but it kind of describes what it would be like to be the Buddha before the Buddha lifetime. Mm-hmm. And anyway, so that lifetime he was this close, and that's why in 7 years he was able to close the gap and become the Buddha, because of all those other lifetimes. So how did he cause that? When he got the image from seeing the previous Buddha of what that was and meant, and then he total commitment to that image, and that's how he became the Buddha. It was because he had the image, and he vowed to hold it until he was the Buddha. Whatever he needed to do would do, but the image is what caused him to be the Buddha. Nobody else held that image for 2,000 years like he did. We say in the school of metaphysics and other places, metaphysical circles, thought is cause and effect is this manifest likeness, right? Cause and effect, for sure. So, you all know that is universal law, right? So, under the law of cause and effect, where is the power point?
Cause.
What?
Cause.
Cause, why?
It's a source.
That's right, the source. If a batter, professional baseball players at the bat, where is the real power at? Along the bat.
His hands.
His hands. Why?
His purpose.
Because of purpose, yes. And that's also where he translates his decision at a particular point to swing. And the force comes out at the end of the bat. But the power is right here that translates where the decision, the image to swing, comes about. So it's always at the thought, the causal point. That's a physical way. Of course, there was a mental thought behind that, but that gives an example, power versus force. So the thought is always the power point. So no matter how hard you work, working hard or hardly working, no matter how hard you work, I've been working hard. You're just moving things around, and you won't get ahead. You'll just be moving things around. Until what?
Until you see the Buddha.
Until you see the Buddha, right? Until somehow you get a different image that I hold in mind. That's right. Until we have a different image, that's a better image that's a higher image, that's more in alignment with what we want, no matter what effort we take, things will turn out the same. Because effect is effect and cause is cause. And if the thought stays the same, the effect will always be the same, no matter how much work we put out. Oh, I did all this work and I saved this money up and somehow I lost it. Or I had this great girlfriend and then I lost her, and then I had this other great girlfriend and then I lost her, and then I had this other great girlfriend and I lost her. How could that be?
Sounds gross.
Unluckiest person I ever heard of. No, the thought never changed. Therefore, the image never changed. Therefore, the cause never changed. Therefore, the effect never changed. Oh, we can change faces around. We can move chess pieces on a chessboard, but it's still the same chess game. Maybe we need to play three-dimensional chess, and we're still playing two-dimensional. So we still have the same results, and our queen gets taken. Even though we move this rook here in one game and this rook here, every game our queen gets taken. Because we haven't changed the mental attitude, the thought, or learned anything new about chess. Haven't changed the image.
You know, Dr. Daniel, you told me this and I forgot what it is, but wasn't it at some point someone approached the Buddha and he tapped the ground and he said something like, "This is my," what did he say?
Okay, so you want to hear that part of the story?
Yeah.
Okay, that was the causal point that I told you about, where he vowed to be the Buddha, until he was a Buddha. So now, the effect point comes out, where he's meditating under the Bodhi tree, and he's getting really close to full enlightenment. It's coming. So in a last ditch effort, Mara comes to him, M-A-R-A. And who is Mara? What is Mara?
The devil.
The
Right.
idea of
Satan.
Temptress.
Satan.
Temptress.
It's the same thing as Satan and devil coming to Jesus on the eve of his enlightenment. Same thing. And Mara, just like Jesus, gets tempted because it's universal. It's enlightenment. Before you get fully enlightened, you have to overcome the ego. So Satan, whether you call it Satan or Mara, whatever. So Mara comes to him and tempts him. Mara has 3 daughters, tempts him with all kinds of sex, tempts him with money, and gives him the same temptation Jesus said. If you will do what I say or bow down to me or whatever, I will make you the greatest emperor the world's ever seen. So all the ego has to offer in both those examples is physical things. So you have evil politicians sell out for money, or banksters, or anybody when you sell out money. Well, that's not what the Buddha and Jesus did. They didn't sell out for physical things. They said, this is enlightenment. I'm holding out for that. That's my image. I'm sticking to my image. That's my story. And I'm not changing.
So who imaged Mara into existence?
Mara is the innate intelligence of the physical body, and Satan, and it's the ego in the physical body, and the ego, that innate intelligence gets all its information through the 5 senses. So therefore, it thinks that all there is the physical world. So therefore, it wants to maintain control. So it has as many physical things as it can get for as much pleasure as it can possibly have, and as much control as it can have, because it equates collecting and having physical things with power, control, the good life, not having as much fear, not being overtaken by something in the physical, because it thinks physical. So it's a victim consciousness. So that's why it appears universal, because you have to not only face yourself, you have to face the innate intelligence of the physical body. So you watch your thoughts throughout the day.
So then what did the Buddha say?
The Buddha, thank you. So the Buddha did not acknowledge any of these and did not go for them. And finally, Mara said, no, it doesn't count. You're not enlightened, because according to our rules, and even in Hebrews had this in the Old Testament under the laws of Moses, to bring a case for or against someone, you had to have 2 or more witnesses. And it's pretty much kind of the same way today. It's like, otherwise it's he said, she said, unless you can get some other proof. Well, they didn't have cameras or anything in those days, so you tried to get somebody else that said, I was there present, and the two of us say it happened, and you said it did, but there's two of us, okay, we'll accept the two of you saying that. Which works as long as they didn't get paid off, and so, but anyway, Mara said, well, you can't claim you're Buddha, you're not the Buddha, because you don't have any witnesses. They're just you. I said, who do you have for your witness? So the Buddha's sitting on a Bodhi tree, cross-legged, so he reaches down and he touches earth. Now, and with that, Mara departed, because he knew it didn't defeat him. Now, why would he touch earth? Why did he do that?
Was the earth the witness?
Yes. Now, why is earth the witness? Nobody knows.
On the court, they say, God is my witness.
Yes,
Right.
God.
So
Right.
I guess the earth, he was seeing the earth.
But they wouldn't accept Mara
Mhm.
and in the Old Testament. It had to be a physical,
Had to be a physical thing,
witness.
right.
Yeah, somebody, a person,
Yeah.
not God, because anybody can say God said this or God said that.
Exactly. So it's a manifestation
So
of God, right?
everybody in the ancient world, everybody, most people, before modern science says the Earth is a dead planet and we're here to exploit and dominate it and dig up all its minerals and do whatever we want to with it. Before the Renaissance and the modern Industrial Revolution and the Age of Enlightenment, under all the pagan religions before Christianity, Catholicism, they all said the Earth is a living being. So planet-wide, everybody knew the Earth was a living being. And so in the Buddha's time, the Buddha knew that, and Mara knew that. Everybody on the planet knew the Earth was a living being, and the Earth had witnessed it, and Mara knew, and the Buddha knew that because he was fully enlightened, that he was fully connected with the living being of Earth, and the Earth has witnessed it, and the Earth would tell Mara that I witnessed this, and this is true. And they both knew that was true. Because the Earth is living, and the Earth will talk to you. And it was physical. The Earth is physical. It's called Mother Earth. It's Mother Nature. It's physical. That's about the only way we get it in our modern society is Mother Earth. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay. So, imagination is everything. So, if you have the same thing you had a year ago, since you're all directors, we'll talk about directing, then that means the imagination hasn't changed. If you have something different, or in any of your area of life, that you want it to be different, then there has to be a different image. Now, can you just say, oh, okay, well, I want $1 million. Okay, I want $1 million, universe, give it to me. Will that work for you? Will that
No.
give it to you? Why won't that work for you?
Because we have limitations and we say that we won't get it.
Right. So God, since he created the universe, is pretty far along in evolution, so he could have a clear image and pretty much has, like Jesus did with his healings, or multiplying loaves and fishes, instant manifestation. Unless you're fully enlightened and a total master, like Jesus said, I am the Father one, or Buddha said, I'm one with Mother Earth. You probably don't have that much ability to do that, right? So what we have to do until we're fully enlightened and have mastered that, and don't have any Mara, any Satan, any unconscious stuff in our brains that's limiting us from programming when we were children and stuff, we've gone beyond that. Until that time, we have to use something else because we can't do it just by holding one image for 2 seconds in our mind. What do we use instead?
10 most marvelous?
Concentration.
Yes, 10 most wantless and concentration too. Why do you say 10 most wantless?
Because you place your attention on it for longer than 2 seconds.
Yes. How long do you place it on it?
Like 5 minutes each thing.
And how often?
Once a day, at least once a day.
Okay, for how many days?
Infinite.
Okay, so what we have is attention, so we're better at holding a mental image, and we know what a mental image is because we practice the flower exercise and other exercises, and we know what attention is, which is the light, let there be light, God had awareness. So the attention, the ability to hold the attention, gives us awareness in the present moment. And then the holding the image, the awareness to have the image. But since we're not quite as good as God at it, we can't do it instantly. So what we use is, and we begin with the 10 most wondrous, we use repetition. Over and over and over, day after day after day, to reinforce the picture. Because our minds aren't as powerful as people that can always do it the first time. So instead of doing it the first time, let's say doing it the first time is 1,000. Well, let's say when we image something, it's only 1. So we have to imagine it, image it 1,000 times to get the result of somebody that's more powerful mind, 1,000. So like, you've all read the David Hawkins book, Power Discourse, right? So you know levels of consciousness, 0 to 100 to 200, 300, 400, 5. I think that each of those hundreds is at least 10 times more powerful, probably 100 times more powerful than the 100 below it, especially when you get to 500 or beyond. So this is why you have to do it at least 100 times and probably 1,000 times. But the key is having a clear image. And so you can shorten that time when you give it your full concentration and attention, and you don't insert doubts and fears and disbeliefs or anything that might interfere with the picture. And then you hold the picture so clearly that you can see it, smell it, taste it, feel it, touch it, and you can feel it. And you do it so clearly and so often and so strongly that it is if you're actually there. You're actually there already. And if you're actually there already in the image, then that means the image is already in the present moment, which means the image has already occurred. So you image it as if it's already occurred. What's going to happen if you image some number 1 on your 10 most wanted list, and then you think, okay, well maybe I'll have that next week or next month or next year or next lifetime or 10 years. What's going to happen?
It'll always be in the future.
It'll always be in the future.
Yeah.
And what's the thing about the future?
It doesn't exist.
That's right. It's
It never arrives.
right. It-
So if you're
it's
imaging
present.
something on 10 most wanted list, well, maybe, hopefully, I hope this will happen sometime in the future, tomorrow or a week or a month. It never will, because the future never arrives. So what you imagine, imagination's everything. You imagine it, and this helps you be like God, the Creator, or Jesus, to do things quickly and manifest quickly. You imagine it in the present moment. You imagine you already have it now, as if you already have it now in the present moment. Because the present moment is all we ever really have. So when you do that, you're aligning with the true nature reality, the present moment. Now that is the way you have power with imagination. You don't have power in the future with imagination. And memories of the past drain you of power in the present moment. Well, I can't do that. I can't have 100 students because I've never done that. Or I haven't 50 students because nobody else has done it in school. Doesn't matter. Okay, well, maybe somebody did that a year or 5 or 10 years ago, but nobody's doing it now, so I'm waiting for somebody else to do it now, and then that'll give me permission to do it. You don't need permission to image something. You don't need permission or wait for somebody else to manifest something or objectify it in the world for you to be able to do it. The world's full of that. Somebody imaged an automobile first and produced it before anybody else. Somebody imaged a rocket first. Somebody imaged, you name it, interstate highways. That was in Germany during Hitler, during World War II. Somebody imagined that, even then, and built it. Now it's copied all over the world. Somebody imaged a radio and built it. Somebody imaged a TV and built it. Somebody imaged the internet and built it. And those were all new, at least in our time period. I mean, we know of. So why wait on anybody to imagine something? Whether they've done it before, it's ever been done before, or maybe it's been done 1,000, 1,000,000 times. But why wait on anybody? There's no reason. that would say that they're more powerful than you are. But they're not, according to your ability and practice and use of imagination. So, no matter what you do, no matter how much activity you put out, you'll never have 50 or 100 students. You'll never have that until you have the image clearly in your mind and you refine that every day and you get it clearer and clearer until it's already happening. Well, you can lay down in a chair or in bed right, for an image of it and you actually seems like you think you're there. It's already there. And then you go to sleep. And when you can do that, it's there. Because there's nothing to keep that image from being so strongly placed in the subconscious mind and so heavy with thought that it moves through the levels of mind really quickly. Even if you have a thought of what you want and you don't, if you doubt it, that will interfere with the thought, or fear of what would happen. If I have 50 students, I will not be able to respond to all of them. They'll think I'm super. What would I do? Who would I have do this? Where would they fit? I wouldn't have enough rooms in my school. So I explained how I just did that today. I did that, Brandon, I did that, and I did that to everybody. How would it be possible in the building you got right now to have 100 students? Well, let's break that down. 4 nights a week, Monday through Thursday, 3 rooms, 10 people in a class, 3 classes per night. That's 30 times 4 nights is 120. So if you have a school building where you've got 3 rooms that you can use for classes, you can have 120, not just 100. And that's, so if you want to say 9 I think still works out to over 100. So that's how you got, that's not even an excuse for not having it. As far as space. So when things come up, oh, I can't have this, or I can't do this, or I can't this and this and this, that's like Mara said to the Buddha, well, you can't be the Buddha because of this and this. Or you can't be enlightened Jesus because of this and this. I'll try to get you to think physical, and I'll give you a bunch more physical stuff to keep you occupied for the rest of life. If that won't work, I'll just tell you, no, you can't be enlightened for this and this and this. So I'm trying to change your image, if I'm tomorrow, or I'm trying to get you to change your image. Finally, you won't change your image, and you get better at it. And so it happens. Have you ever seen somebody, maybe in the school, that they don't seem to do much, or as much as you, but they got more students, or their school's successful, or just anywhere in life? They just don't seem to do a lot, but a lot of things happen for them. Have you ever known anybody like that? I knew a guy in college, David Cups. He was my fraternity director. He was a pledge of mine. And we'd go to the same classes because he was majored in agriculture and economics. He was agriculture and economics, but a lot of our basics were the same. And I was sitting next to him because we'd walk from the fraternity house to class. And he would watch, and I would be scribbling down notes as fast as I could, what the professor said. And he would just look like this at the professor. And there were 2 or 3, 5 minutes, make one little note. And I'd be scribbling as fast as I could. And I thought, how? And then he would get an A. I would be lucky if I studied really hard if I made an A. And he would just do that and he'd get A's. And I'd get B's lots of times too. And he got into veterinary school. How did he do that? And how come I couldn't do that just like him? So there's a reason. Somehow he had had an image somewhere, previous lifetime or this lifetime. And that image was, learning comes easy. And I can absorb this real easy. And it's fun and easy to learn. And it was. So when the pictures went in, maybe he'd learned past lives to receive pictures. But everybody's known somebody like that. What I'm telling you is how to do things the easy way. Now, easy as far as physical activity. You still need to do that. It's still ideal purpose activity. But if your image don't change, no matter how much activity you got out here, it ain't gonna change your results because it's still the same thought, which is cause. The image changes a lot. And everything you do out here, all of a sudden seems to work. And people are calling you from, you don't know, no places they call from before, or they pick up brochures, or you think of a new thing to do and a new place to put it, brochures and posters, and all of a sudden they're responding and it's working. And that's because you're the Directing Intelligence Festival and your image has changed. Your image changed. One time I was a director, it's the third school I directed. But I I'd only directed one school 4 months, another one 6 months, so I was still kind of learning. I'd had less than a year. And it wasn't working. I had a few students and, yeah, kind of paying the bills, but wasn't really growing. And so one time I said, okay, God, I surrender. I surrender. Show me what I need to do. And then my school started growing. And it went up 6 months in a row. 1 month, it had the same amount of students. The other months, it went up. So when I surrendered my old image, and I allowed something different image, something different, God image, whatever I had of God or whatever, greater power. And I knew what I wanted. I wanted that surrender to grow big. So at that point of surrender, most people aren't willing to surrender. It's too scary for them. I surrendered, then I could receive, I could entertain a different image. And since I wanted lots of students in the school, then that image could be allowed in and could be stronger than old images I had. And that's the surrendering to the ego, the same that the Buddha did on a larger scale and Jesus did. Yeah.
I'd like to share a couple of images that have changed for me just recently.
Okay.
And I think it applies to what you're talking about related to cause.
Yeah.
So just recently I came to the awareness that when I'm meditating, I feel like I have an entourage with me. Like all of the people that I know are with me in meditation, like that kind of a feel. And like I recognize this and I decided anymore when I go into meditation, it's me and God. That's it. Not everyone else in my life, just me and God. I'm going to crowd out all the other voices. It a little bit reminds me of when we do the still mind meditation here in the morning on third weekend, when Dr. Daniel says, put your attention on one point of focus and other voices start coming in. Mm-hmm. It's like that is a time that I've set for complete focus on that single point. So nothing else is allowed at that time is what I'm commanding. And it's the same thing for meditation. So really what I think I'm wanting to set up in that is that I want to be as close to source as I can possibly be.
Right.
I don't want everyone else in my life to be in on this collaboration. It's me and source. That's it. And so it reminded me of when I was here as a college student. This was like a really good example. When I was here as a college student, it was a kind of different culture. And so it was, you know, I was a college student, Chris Storer was a college student, Heather Hunt, Ariadne, Connor, and John Wharton. So we were all here at the same time. And when I first came, Heather Hunt and Ariadne were already here. And they had already developed some, you know, kind of like seniority, okay? So then when I came, they were giving me like all the lowdown on everything. What I could do, what I couldn't do, you know, and I'd be tired and I'd like go hide in the closet and then Heather would come find me and she would say, you can't do that. Like you can't be doing that. And I'm like, doing what? you can't be like resting in the closet. And I was like, well, why not? And she was like, you're gonna get in trouble. Okay.
Mhm.
So here I am, like a 42-year-old woman, going, I'm gonna get in trouble for resting. Really? Yeah, you're gonna get in trouble for resting. I'm like, who do I need to talk to about this? Because this is not gonna happen. And so she's like, I mean, don't even ask,
Well, you
because
can't talk to anyone. Say
no,
bye. You'll get in trouble.
no, exactly. You're gonna get in trouble. I mean, Karen is gonna, Dr. Daniel. I'm like, well, I think I just need to talk to Daniel about that right now then. And so then I go find Dr. Daniel, and I was like, what I'm hearing is that if I rest, I'm gonna get in trouble. So, is that true? Like, what's the lowdown on this? And he's like, well, who told you that? You know? And then we start digging into that. But my point is that I think that by going to the source, that first of all says, I'm willing to be responsible. I'm not willing to entertain all of this other riffraff. And let's get to the truth. And so I want to negotiate the truth with the source or with the director. And I think that by doing that, what happens with us is that we become the source instead of messing around with others, the effect,
Right.
not the source.
And now here you are, president.
Right.
Yeah.
Make it
Karen.
Just a joke, but not the only one. When I was here, Walter used to hide in the bathrooms. You could never find him anywhere, and he was in the bathrooms.
Yeah.
So you're not unique.
Well, the point, I mean, the real point of it though is that
That's the point, right?
we need to, I think in all things, go directly to source.
That's right. When Jesus said, I and the Father one, he went directly to source. When Buddha said, this is my witness, he was working with source. He surveyed the whole planet to see if anybody was more enlightened so he could bow down to him. Because in those days you're supposed to be humble. If you're enlightened, then you're supposed to bow down. He said, there's nobody more enlightened than me on the planet. Who will I bow down to? He said, then I'll bow down to Mother Earth. Because that's the whole being that we're living on, you know, the whole consciousness. Yeah, that's the source. Right. So source said, were you complete on that?
Yeah.
So source said, let there be light. Let us make man in our image. Our image and likeness, he created them. Now people he created them. So source says we create with image, with an image. And we make a decision. We have awareness, we form the image, and then we hold it with the will until it's clear, so clear that then it manifests. It's objectified in the outer world. So that's the process. So I'm going to say some things to you. So I wrote a few ideas down. Is there any questions or anything I've said so far? Okay. So what this is what's being described here is the ultimate flowering of cause, I said cause and effect, but and giving the true recognition to where the power is. Too many people give the power to effect instead of power to the cause. The effect is where the force is. The cause is where the power is. Force will not create something. You just keep moving chess pieces around, whether it's money or amount of students or anything in your life, whatever it is that you want. You just kind of move things around until the cause changes, and there is a causal image. And until that causal, let's do positive, when that causal image changed to something better, meaning greater, meaning more in alignment with what you really want, then the more longer you hold it, and clearly and strongly and with full recognition, the quicker it will objectify in your life. So listen to this. What do you think about this? Whatever you experience out here is what's going on in here. Whatever you experience in your outer consciousness is what's going on in your inner consciousness. What do you think of that? I've seen a few. That's powerful, because it does mean that you are the source of what is in your life and what you created, and therefore you're the source of what comes next, or not. Whatever comes next, yeah. You are the source. It's ultimate power is what it is. Ultimate power. What your experience out here is your consciousness inside. Very simple. Anything you don't like about it, that means you haven't changed your mental image. We'll change your mental image to where it's what you want and hold it, just like God did. And if you get good at it, you'll be like Jesus, and it'll be instant manifestation. If you need practice, then you got to do repetition every day, a lot of it, every day. At least 30 days, 90 days if you want to have the new idea where it kind of becomes a part of yourself for the rest of your life, and a year if you really just want to totally own it, have it good, for understanding, overrode your limitation in that area or whatever. Think about it. What did one day of candle concentration give you? Well, you made some marks. What did 1 week give you?
A little more awareness.
Yeah. How many times of doing it how many days before you started recognizing the nature of attention?
It took a good while.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say,
It
maybe
didn't.
like
It
30
didn't happen in
days.
a week.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Months. So at least 30 days, 90 days, probably 90 days of practice anything if you really want to get halfway decent.
Yeah.
But if you really want to get really good at it, well, how long do we do the candle concentration exercise? Well, 9 months to a year, maybe a year, a year's practice if you really want to get good at something. I can tell you, I never mastered concentration, which would be the equivalent of no candle marks, while I was doing the candle concentration exercise. I mastered it in the second cycle when one day I was doing the blade of grass exercise, and I'm sitting there and I realized I can hold my attention here as long as I want. So that wasn't until the second cycle. But I got better at it, and I learned what my attention was, and then it started translating over to my day. That was a big jump when I started realizing during the day, oh, I'm thinking about this, I can change what my thought is and put it on something else. That's when the candle concentration translated over into my awareness and attention and ability to choose what thought I would have during the day. That took months of practice. So, you want a new image? You want things to be greater in your life, our life, and they have to be greater in your inner life. And that means hold the image. That also means that the things you allow yourself to dwell on from the past, pleasurable or painful, you have to start to eliminate it, because that's your image, and that's creating your life just the same over and over again, like it was 10 years ago or 5 years ago or 1 year ago. The more you dwell on images from the past, with pleasure or pain or whatever. Oh, you might bring up a memory every now and then. Oh, remember to talk to somebody. Oh, remember when we did this, that. But you're not dwelling on it every day. But those images from the past that you dwell on every day, that's what you're creating in the present moment. No wonder you can't get ahead. You cannot get ahead. You cannot create more and greater in the present moment by dwelling on memories of the past. Watch your memories. Watch what you think of every day of memories of the past that you dwell on. Watch what thoughts you think when you're laying in bed before you go to sleep. every night. Watch the images you have that you habitually dwell on when you're going to sleep. Pleasure, painful. Oh, that was a good old time I had back then. I'll just think about that every night before I go to sleep. Or that was really painful. I always think about that before I go to sleep. I don't like that. Whatever images from the past you dwell on, that's what you're creating now. And you can't create anything new with old images. So when you're going to sleep, when you're laying in bed, do not think a bunch of memory images, especially ones that you've already thought of 1,000 times before you go to sleep. Think new images as you're going to sleep. What the image is that is greater for you, your school. You're all directors, so we're talking about directors, particularly for your school. Image 50, and image 100. If you got the courage to image 100, do that. If you don't have that much courage, image 50. Yes?
A couple of questions and a couple of things to share.
Yeah.
So you asked in the beginning about Genesis and how he said, let it. Right?
Let. Yeah.
Well, that means it already exists. Let it just happen right now. Is
Yes.
how I'm seeing that word, right? Let it happen,
The
right?
thought form already exists, and now we're letting it be in our
Let it go. It needs allow it to happen, right?
Right.
And I certainly I can't do that if I have thoughts of limitations.
That's right.
And so then, so I had the thought in mind too when you were describing that the Buddha touched the earth and that was the second witness
Right.
that he needed to tell Mara that, you know, you're full of whatever.
Yeah, I've got my witness. Get out.
And it's interesting because I was considering, so where does this thing come from us that wants to create a greater image? And so to me, the earth is a symbol of subconscious mind, and within subconscious mind is our desire to manifest what we want in the physical, right?
Yes.
And so my image is going to be clearly defined by what I truly desire.
Right.
So it was really interesting. So that when I was in the battle of trying to find a new place, and it seemed totally impossible, there's a couple things I want to share with everyone that you had shared with me.
Okay.
And I found it at the time fairly comical because you said, well, think about the story of the Buddha and Agamala.
Angulimala, right?
And you simply put the seed thought in my mind. He goes, you know, surely if the Buddha can change someone like Angulimala,
Who killed 999 people.
yeah, and he wore their fingers on his neck as a
Yes.
necklace,
Right.
certainly you can manifest a new place.
That's right.
And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, why? And I can do the same with 50 people
That's right.
if that's my goal, right? I'm going to create students. And then, you know, last month I
Once
came
you
down.
change it from your goal to your image.
Yes.
That's your image, right?
Yeah. And so then, you know, I came down, I said, okay, well, you know, this thing worked with me getting a new place. Now my goal is to get what I want, you know, in terms of the student body and the community I want to build. And I told you, I came down, I said, you know, I'm sorry, man, but it's harder this time because I'm paying attention to my checking account, and it's like, I need them now kind of thing. And you, well, no wonder your attention is where you want it right now. Your attention is on the past
And on fear.
and on fear and doubt.
Right.
And so, and I said, okay, he's right again. And so, I kept it up and kept it up. And there's some subtle things I'm beginning to notice within my own conscious mind.
Mm-hmm.
And like, for example, I'll get up in the morning and I'll just say, Brandon, what are you up to today? Oh, I'm the director of 50 students and 10 teachers. I got to get my act together and get in gear
Right.
and work on that, right?
Right.
And many times during the day, and so it came up on me. It's like I remembered the Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech, and in that speech he says, "I imagine the day when these things are going to happen," and everything he talked about happened because he was imaging
I had a dream, right?
what that was, right?
He imagined.
Yeah,
And he told everybody what he imagined.
yeah. And he said it with such authority And the other thing you told me too that has been really powerful is that when those old memory thoughts pop up, it's similar to what Jesus did in the temptation in the desert, and what the Buddha was doing with Mara.
Right.
Is that that's not right, because I'm living and believing and existing in a higher truth.
Right.
And what I desire, I can bring forth in the physical.
That's right.
And so it's been hard because there hadn't appeared to be very much movement. I mean, so I've been doing some activities trying to gain students, and it was really interesting because every morning I say my thing, I talk out loud my images, and one of the images, the most powerful image I had is, I want to build a community. I am wanting to build a spiritual community. And so I did an introductory class, and part of building that spiritual community is I want to draw students and people who want that too, and who are willing to build with me, right? So I did an intro class the other night, or Monday, and 3 women showed up, and you know what their desire was? Because I asked them, I said, why did you show up? What got you so interested in wanting to come here to the School of Metaphysics? And 2 of them had come to the open house, and they all 3 said they wanted the community. Because that's the image that's in my mind. And I started making the connections. That's really what it is.
And there's 100,000 people in that city that wants community in that metropolitan area.
Yeah.
They don't have it.
And so and the other kind of thing I started noticing in my conscious awareness and how I'm communicating, not only to myself but other people, is that one of the things I did on that introductory class, I did my spiel, I had all this stuff on the board, and I go, in the end, imagine if you could just do one of these things that I pointed out that you could do.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that you want success consciousness. Imagine if you could have that and how that would affect your life and everyone else around you. Imagine that. And I started using the word imagine a lot.
Good.
And you could tell that they go, yeah, it only makes sense, right? And so I do that. I'm more consciously aware of how I'm working that within my own life. Is, can you imagine what this would be like? And use my senses.
That's right. And can you imagine what that would be like? So that's exactly right. And you're identifying it, and you're holding to the image you want. And then there's 2 sides of that. Holding to the image you want, very important. Well, that's everything. Having the image, imagination. Then you have to eliminate, like the Buddha and Jesus did, anything that would distract you from that image. Old memory thoughts that you have throughout the day. Old memory thoughts when you're going to sleep. Any memory thoughts that would interfere with what you're imagining, those, the Buddha said you have to pull them up by the roots, those weed thoughts. He said because if you just cut them out, if you don't, they'll just grow back again. You have to pull them up by the roots. So you say, I'm pulling this weed thought that I just keep dwelling on over and over again. It's not going to manifest because it's memory. So it can only hold me back in the present, or it could manifest as the same old stuff with a different face. That's all the best it can do. Why would I want that? And then you say it out loud and say, okay, I agree to give up this old memory thought and just not think about it anymore. And in replace, I'm going to take all that energy that I put in that memory thought and put it in the image that I want to occur now. The image that I want now. And so,
I got to tell you something fun too.
okay,
Part of I'm learning too is, because you had said this, how do you refine, it helps to continue to refine the image. And so part of it is, I'm using my imagination to get the imagination more refined, or even other images that are depicting the same desire that I want to create.
right.
So, what of it is, so I changed the thing about money. Well, yeah, I want a lot of students because I want them contributing so that we can have a much greater impact in the community and get the community build greater and have much more of an influence. And so I remember walking into the school on Monday or something like that, and there's the donation jar. I got it right in front of this door, and I noticed, there's the empty jar. And I go, whoa, 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 whoa. That's not the right image. The image is that every time I look at that jar, money is overflowing out of it. It can't hold it.
Right.
And imaging that not only do we have students in the building, but there's a long waiting list, right?
Right.
I came into class. I came into school on Wednesday, and there's a $20 bill
Yeah.
in the donation jar, and I have no clue where it came from.
Right. So that was just a little inkling of what can happen almost immediately when you find one limiting thought and say, I'm not going to do that anymore. You get immediately your environment changes. That's not your major image of what you want, but it was a detractor from what you want. So you take the detractor away, and immediately you have more of what you want in your environment because you took a detractor away from your image. Yeah, that's right. Those are great stories. Thanks for sharing all those. Yeah. Pull up all the weed thoughts. They don't serve you anymore. They don't serve you. You thought it was a thrill at the time, or you thought it was painful at the time. It was a thrill. It ain't going to give you thrill anymore. It's not a physical experience anymore. If it was painful, you don't want the pain anymore. So don't dwell on it. Choose. You consciously right now choose to image and hold on to the image and the thought throughout the day of what the image is of your desire. And that alone. Unless, other than just interacting with the world as far as doing your physical job or your this or that or paperwork or this or that. In your time of thinking thoughts, where you think your own thoughts rather than some responsibility of a job or there's that. You have your own time of thinking thoughts throughout, and you'll have it throughout the day. Only allow those thoughts that are conducive and are a part of objective of strengthening your imaged desire. That's how you build your power day by day. So, define clearly your image. Define it, what you want. 2, imagine
Can
clearly
you
what you
slow
want.
down for a second?
Okay, define clearly your image. 2, after you define clearly your image, the second one's kind of like that. It's just you imagine clearly what you want. So you find your image, you find it, but then you once you've defined it, you work on it to make it clearer and clearer and clearer, basically. That's 2. 3, imagine this desire so clearly. Imagine this desire so clearly that you can see it, hear it, touch it, and most importantly, feel it. I can feel this table I'm leaning on, this chair I'm sitting in. You want it to be that real. So when you're imagining it, when you're imaging it, you get so caught up in it. It's so strong that it's as if it's here right now. You even convince your senses. If you can convince your senses that it's here right now, your mind that it's a sensory experience, then it's overrun. It overrides the memory thoughts in your brain. Because this is what you have now. Not the memory thoughts, this is what you have right now. The memory thoughts will try to say you have those memories right now, which won't give you anything good.
So
right
say
now.
that again. Imagine this desire so clearly. Go ahead.
That you can feel it as if it has already occurred.
Okay.
You already have it. You imagine it so clearly that you can feel as if it's already occurred. So when you get up the next morning, you'll see it. It'll be right there. And if it's not, you'll say, wait a minute, I've already seen this. Why? What? You'll be surprised it's not there. If it's not there, which it probably will be. Just like the $20 bill. And that was just a minor thing you did. And so you got a minor amount of money. But it was a very dramatic presentation of when you change a thought, even a little bit, to refine it close to what you want. You It's objectified, your consciousness is objectified in your outer world. So the sameness of your experiences in your outer life is a dramatic portrayal of the sameness of your thoughts and consciousness of your inner life. And greatness, things that are in your outer life, that are of your image desire, and you have them in your outer life day by day by day, that's a dramatic presentation of your willingness to change the thought images in your mind until your consciousness changes. Because thoughts build up into consciousness over time. That was the dramatic story with the Buddha. Took him a couple thousand years, but his thought, it's the most difficult thing on the planet, is become enlightened, because that's beyond the planet. So sometimes it takes a little while. But nonetheless, it just shows you the most difficult thing to achieve is possible when the image is held.
Thoughts build up. Repeat that.
Thoughts build up stronger and stronger the more they're repeated, until they have to become a part of your outer world, because they become so strong in your consciousness, then your outer conscious has to match your inner consciousness. They're one and the same. They appear different to our five senses, but they're not. Your outer, what seems to be your outer world, is just your consciousness objectified. You studied visualization. All of you studied the visualization series, so you know about subjective and objective. So subjective is like subconscious, objective is physical, right? Conscious mind, yeah. So that's what I mean by objectified. Yes, Nikki? What? You have something? Okay. The 4, let enough of the conscious mind go. Let enough of the conscious mind go in order to let the subconscious mind enter. Let enough of the conscious mind go in order to let the subconscious mind enter. What do I mean by that? Well, if you're laying down in an easy chair and just kind of drifting off, or at night, instead of thinking all these habitual thoughts, it will just limit you the next day and produce the same limiting stuff. Instead, you hold the image as you're drifting off. And as you're kind of drifting, the conscious mind kind of gets out of the way. Kind of like it does under hypnosis. And then you know, under hypnosis you can plant a thought, and sometimes it helps people, lose weight or whatever. It's the same idea, but in this case, you're doing it yourself. And so you hold that thought image so strong, and you feel it as if it's already occurred as you're drifting off. There's no conscious mind to get in the way of that thought form strongly, powerfully, and heavily going into the subconscious mind. So that means you've all been taught about, you place the thought in the subconscious mind, and then as you give it more attention, it gathers mind substance around it, mind stuff series. Give it mind substance around it until it manifests. Well, what you're doing then, this way, is you're putting it in with a lot of powerful mind substance. So it's already heavy. So then it's so heavy, even though you put it third level, it's so heavy it has to move the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th fast. Because it's already got the mind stuff around it. You put it there. Directly into subconscious mind, consciously. So it's taking what is a natural process and using your own mind to speed up that process. Okay, 5. Be aware of this dimensionally larger world. Be aware of this dimensionally. That's dimension with an L-Y on it. Be aware of this dimensionally larger world, which I'm just describing to you. When you hold it so clearly and let the conscious mind out, and then you can go into it. And yes, you may have a dream about that night, and you'll be in that dimensionally larger world, which the subconscious mind is much bigger than the conscious mind and the physical world, much, much bigger, and much more powerful. So maybe you'll become more awake in your dream. Maybe you'll start doing things in your dream to help your thought form manifest, because it'll be right there in front of you because it's so strong. And that's all you dwell on. So your dream's about your consciousness of the previous day's experience. So if that's all your consciousness is on your image of what you want, it'll have to be in your dream. And so you can do whatever you do in your dream to make it happen quicker. Be aware of a dimensionally larger world. 6. very important. Be aware, no, start again. Know that the physical world is not fixed, comma. Know that the physical world is not fixed, comma. It is moldable. If you say to yourself, there's no way in heck I could have 50, let alone 100 students, then you don't know that the physical world is moldable. You think it's fixed. It's not. The house I grew up in burnt down. It doesn't even exist anymore. It was moldable.
Molded into ash.
Yeah, that's fast molding. It's unmolding is what it's doing. Unmolded, yeah. That's sending its energy back into something. So, the car you used to drive, you don't drive anymore. You traded in on a different one. It got rusty. It didn't look new anymore, or whatever. It's moldable. But those are deterioration things. But what about, do you have more money now than you did a year ago? Do you have more students now than you did a year ago? Are there more people living in the school now than there were a year ago? Speaking as a director, are you giving lectures to people? As a director, I gave a lecture at the time, and I was just director, 3 years in the school, to the largest group at that time that had ever been given in the history of the School of Metaphysics by area directors president. I gave a lecture to over 500 people. And since then, I've done two or three more 500 and 2 was 700, and no one else has done that. I must have had an image that other people didn't have of being great, of speaking to a worldwide speaker, to be speaking to a large audience, to have a very important message to share. It didn't happen by accident. It was because I imaged it. Did that shock you or something? You dropped it?
She was nodding off.
Well, that woke her up. 500 people, that's impossible. 100 people in school, that's impossible. Speaking to 500 people, that's impossible. 700? What are you talking about? That's crazy. I actually had a person that had a doctorate in the School of Metaphysics. We had campouts at Lake the Ozarks. I was in the lake, we were swimming around. She swims up to me and she said, as I told the people about this because I gave a lecture. She said, "You didn't do that." I said, "What are you talking about? You didn't do, what?" She couldn't believe that me, a puny director, and she had a doctorate, or anybody in the school, because other people hadn't even done it. She couldn't believe somebody could even do that in the school. That was shocking. So what if other people don't believe it can be done? I believed it could be done, and I had an image, and so it was done. And could I have done better? Yeah, I did self-evaluation, examination afterwards. How can I do better? And I did better the next time. Next day, I always did that after every lecture. Okay, let's see. That was 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
7. Imagine an event or experience. Imagine an event or experience you would have that indicates you have already, and underline the word already, you have already received your image. Imagine an event or experience you would have that indicates you have already received your image that you created in your imagination, period. And then the next sentence under 7 is, this creates time compression. So since I don't think I'll get too many arguments with people that in the present moment is the true reality. So, therefore, if you, in anything you imagine it as if it's in the present moment. Therefore, you're compressing the timeline out from a day, a week, a month, 6 months, next lifetime. You're compressing it into the present moment. So it's an imaginary timeline, but imagine it as a timeline. You're compressing it into the present moment.
I should have just introduced you.
Right?
You should have, yeah, because I had it right on my paper. I think you read my mind.
I must have read yours.
All right, 8. And it could be I had that thought, and then you picked up the thought. It's possible too, or it's original thought. Sometimes thoughts are hanging out in the ether, and a lot of people pick them up. 8. Do - practice. Okay, so you're going to practice this daily. Practice this daily until the image. Practice this daily until the image is received in your objective life. Practice this daily until the image is received in your objective life. In other words, it is your life, outer life. Okay? That's it. That's all my numbers.
Didn't have any on paper.
So what is the let them part? Like, how do you see that?
Okay, so since God's really powerful at imagination, he can do all of these really quick, right? Of course, we don't know how long it took after he said, "Let there be light," before there was light. But he said, but the next verse said, "And there was light." Like it happened real quick. It might have been beyond time. So, say your question again.
How do you see that part of the Bible?
Let.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay. First of all, the first part, define clearly your image, and the second one, imagine clearly what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Right here, in the first part, God created the heavens and the earth in the very beginning, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. Meaning that's the subconscious mind until you put an image in it. It's just formless.
Right.
You put the form in, but then it's in your life. If you don't, you are always putting form in, because everybody has thoughts. But you're always putting thoughts in the subconscious mind, consciously or unconsciously. And if they're memory thoughts, then that's the image you get. But it's formless and void until an image is put there. So, since it's formless and void until the image, why not choose the image you want instead of the one you don't want, or the ones of the past that you don't want either? It's a matter of choosing the image you want rather than the image you don't want. If it's a memory thought, you really don't want that in your future. So it's a matter of choosing the image, which is number 1, 2, you most want, and holding that. Okay, that's the earth was formless. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Light is awareness. So that's when you have very clearly the image you want. It's very clearly, and you shine the light of your attention on it with attention, and you say, "That is what I want," and that's 3. Imagine the desire so clearly that you can see it, hear it, touch it, feel it, and it has already occurred. That is when you've got the conscious awareness, and then 3 is what comes after that. Then God's creating these images of what He wants. That's number 3. Imagine the desire so clear that you can see it here. He wanted first day, He wanted to separate light from darkness. Then He wanted the firmament above and firmament below. Then He wanted the waters. Then He wanted vegetation. Then He wanted animals, and it gets all the way to humans. Mm-hmm. So this is the third part. Okay, now you've got attention. Now you've got awareness. Oh, I'm aware of my thoughts now. Oh, I practice visualization. I can imagine. Well, maybe I'll just practice this 10-minute exercise of a flower, but it has no practical use for me other than that. I won't use it during the day to imagine what I want in my life.
Yeah. So, I just let me interrupt you here for a second. So the let there, again, that is important. The way that you're describing it and what you're saying is, it's like that let is kind of like imagine or create, but it doesn't seem to be that.
That's when He says let. God has made a choice. This is the image I want, and I choose for it to be so. Let. That's what let says. This is the image I want. This is the image I have awareness of, This is the image I want to manifest, or I want objectified.
So like what
That's the way.
Brandon was saying earlier, which I think I'm seeing, is that the let is, it already exists.
Yes,
I'm just allowing it without resisting it.
there's no resistance, and that is my whole attention throughout the day. The whole waking state is on that one thought form. And so, of course, I'm going to let it manifest, because that's all that there is.
So
Let it
really,
shine.
it's, I'm not going to resist this thing that already exists.
Stated negatively, I'm not going to have a doubt or a fear or any other habitual thought of who I had a relationship with in the past, or when I was a kid and we had this good time with the family we don't have anymore, or I got traumatized at this point, or I fell down and broke my toe. Well, I'm not going to let any of those thoughts in. Yes, I'm and then he says exactly what he's letting in the mind, the image in the mind.
Can I read my notes about that part?
Okay?
What I wrote is let, in parentheses, everything is.
Mhm.
I experience what I let, in parentheses. Everything I have is what I let.
In your consciousness, in your mind, in your thoughts, and your thoughts build up into your consciousness. That's right. What you let in your consciousness. What do you let in your mind?
Dr.
Your
Daniel,
thoughts.
do you know the origin of the word let? Like, do you know, you're usually pretty good at that. Like,
No.
okay.
I often do this when I have teaching a class. It's like a week or a day before I knew in advance what the subject was, imagination, but really refined it. I wrote this down before I came down here tonight. So I refined it, the whole complete specifics of what I was going to came through my mind into my conscious mind and awareness, and I wrote it down right before. I had the general, so I'd imaged, I knew what I wanted to teach, so I had that image, and I held that in mind. So then, because I held it in mind, the subconscious mind manifested it for me. And I had it there, and I wrote it down, and it was fully manifested. That was the objectified in my life, this class, because I had that image. Right here it is, and teaching it. Exactly what I thought. So yeah, I do not know the origin of the word let. You guys can look it up real quick if you want to, and
I got
find out more about it.
Tell us, Terrence.
The word let has roots in Old English, letan, meaning to allow, permit, or leave, stemming from Proto-Germanic for to leave behind, and ultimately from Proto-Indo-European root li, meaning to let go.
So you let go the memory images, and you allow the new image that you want.
The fact that you use the word awareness is the culmination of, if you will, the request. You're at a new and different place
Mm-hmm.
because of the cause of let is awareness of its
Yeah.
presence.
Let there be light.
Mhm.
So, right. So there's letting go the past, letting go the old images, and allowing, because you even use the word allowing the new image that you want, desire, to predominate. And the more it predominates, the better. The less the memory images, the better. The more the image you want now predominates, the better. The new image will give you something new in your life. The old image will give you the same old stuff, only people and places move around a little bit, but it'll be basically the same. People, places, things. Is that enough, Christine, on that?
Yeah, that's,
Okay. Yeah, love it.
yeah, because I think about, you know, where I get hung up a lot in my life, and there are things that I really need to let go.
Right,
Not,
that's right.
yeah, just let go, because I can get hung up, yeah.
You can't fully have, and maybe sometimes never, but at least you can't fully have the new image when thoughts are dwelling on old images. Or to the degree that thoughts dwell on old images, to the degree you can't have the new thought. Something like that. And sometimes they interfere completely, but sometimes partially. Depends on exactly what's going on. It's like if you wanted to create a new car, or a new vehicle, or a new invention, if you were in the past, just partially, you couldn't create that new invention. Tesla supposedly could still his mind and receive the image of what the new invention he wanted to create, and then he would sketch it out on paper, and then he would build it. The first time he built it, because he didn't have anybody working for him with which is the alternating current generator, alternator, and all that motor. And then after that, he got more money, and he had engineers working for him and stuff. He would take the image, complete and finished, and he would watch it in his mind, sometimes for a month, until he had it all worked out, and he would sketch it out, and he'd have his mechanical engineers build it for him. But it's the same idea. He was totally absorbed in his image. So much so that he was dwelling not only outer consciously, but in that dimensionally larger world at the same time. So he could see what it was doing as it was coming through the levels, and what adjustments need to be made before it came out. And that's why he seemed to like be able to invent things instantaneously, where Edison could only take an idea and refine it, you know. There had already been a light bulb for Edison. Edison didn't invent the light bulb. What he did was he did 1,001 trials with different things until he came up with a function that would make the light bulb work longer. That's all he did. So, but some things were new probably. But Tesla's just like new stuff. I mean, he does stuff that we're still not using today that was so far advanced. So that's how you do it. The same thing that I'm describing to you, Tesla used as a master in regard to electronic technology. And he was 100 years ahead of his time at least. But it can be used for enlightenment. It can be used to 100 students in your school. I'd love it if all the branches had 3 people living in the school. I bet some of you don't even imagine somebody living in the school. Your schools. You know what the difference between, and I told Brandon this, so he can't answer the question. You know what the difference between is a school with somebody living in it, or I prefer 3 rather than 1, living in it, and a school branch with nobody living in it?
It's night and day.
Yeah, night and day. What's the difference? How would you describe that?
It feels more alive when somebody's living in there.
Yeah.
I think that, yeah, you can feel, like I've been to school branches where people aren't living there, and like even like when you enter, it kind of like feels cold. And you have to like kind of warm it up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas like when somebody's living there, it's already kind of pre-warm, like the oven's already on.
Right.
Preheated.
That's right. So what I said to Brandon was pretty much kind of what you said. I said, when nobody's living there, you got a really great place for students and classes and everybody to meet and to create. When you have one person or more, preferably 2 or 3 living there, you have a really nice place to meet and create all those things, and it's home. That's the warmness you experience. It's home. So when I would go into Columbia when I first started taking classes there, and there was a woman that was a director, and women know how to make homes, by the way.
Yeah.
Without a woman, it's usually not a home. it's a pad or a place to live, but with a woman, it can be its home. So I'd go in there, and it was the first time I'd experienced home since the house and home I grew up in on the farm. You know, I'd been to college all these years. It was my last year. It had been 7 years since I, had gone off to college. I was finishing up a master's degree, and all of a sudden it was like, it was 6 at that time. Every time I'd go in there, I was home. I could feel it, and I could feel the love as I stood on the porch and walked through the front door every time I came in. And it was home, and I was home. And then my director, after a year, asked me if I'd move up to Des Moines, Iowa to teach, be a teacher in the school. And I said, no, because I had a pretty good opportunity to move to Washington, D.C. to be an international agriculture consultant. But I said, well, could I go up there and just check it out first? Because there was a school there already. It didn't start 4 months ago. Cheryl Oscar was the director. She said, yeah, you can just go up we're having a teachers meeting up there for the first time, and you can ride up there with some of the teachers from Columbia, and you won't be able to attend the workshop, but you can spend the whole weekend with us and everything and see what it's like. When I walked through that front door, I knew I was home. Cheryl had made it home, and the students and everything, and it made love. Wasn't as strong as what I got in Columbia, but it was the same thing. Big difference, and big difference on me and the fact that I'm here. So anyway, it's important. So I know some of you aren't imagining that because you don't have it. And I know some of you are imagining, but you're not imagining you have somebody living there with you other than yourself, so I know you're not imagining that and have that. So that's what I'm telling you, is how important it is to build a school and to have people who want to move in and to have people who want to go to other schools. I moved from one home to the other. Columbia to Des Moines. Very simple. And I was living in a house, a professor's house, a real nice house, because the professor had gone on sabbatical in Sweden, and this guy was a PhD, I was a master's and he's a PhD, had worked it out with the professor that we would basically babysit the house while he was gone. So we paid rent, but we got a pretty good deal. And so I was living in this almost brand new house in this really nice neighborhood. And I was a graduate student. My teacher came over and she said, "Oh, you're living in a mansion." So, you know, but the point is, when I go there and, you know, living with two guys in that nice house, it was a lot newer house than the school, but it wasn't home. But when I walk in the school of metaphysics, it was home. So that's how important it is. It's important you imagine those things. Yes, Gary.
The decision to imagine what you want seems to be harder and harder for some people. I won't go into all the reasons I understand, but I'm curious as to how us as teachers, because too often people have way too many ideas and they don't know how to narrow it down, so they don't know how to harmonize with a lot of proper perspective. And so how can we help people that are in need of really focusing on where they're going in their life, so they can be better at deciding what they want to imagine to become or what they want to create?
Then you have to imagine that for yourself and imagine teaching that to many people until as if it's already present in your life.
It also seems to me like it manifests as permission in what you're saying.
That's the let part, kind of.
Yeah.
Giving yourself permission.
Yeah, I was walking through the store today and it just hit me. It was like, I'm not gonna be at the school and my 3 teachers are gonna be in the city. And it just hit me. It was like, tell them to go to the school.
Yeah.
And so I just called all 3 of them and I said, I'm gonna try to come by the school and do something. Karma yoga, call people, set up class, meditate, do something there, give selflessly, not for your lab position, but selflessly, just give for no reason that you can think of maybe, but just do it. And that was, for me, that, what I just like pinged off y'all, and I was like, oh, that's what that is.
I guess this is not being taught in the school of physics anymore. When I was in the first cycle of lessons, the director, who was the person living there, every time she would go to teachers meeting, because we had them once a month, and so once a month she was going to some other city, unless it happened to be in Columbia, and she would have someone school set the school that weekend. And when I got farther along in the lessons, they knew me, trust me. This was before I was a teacher, asked me to do that.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that it was okay to leave during the day and go around, so I came over Friday night and I just stayed there the whole weekend. Didn't even go any place on Saturday until she got back on Sunday. I thought that's what I agreed to do. And she got back and said, "Oh yeah, you could have went. You know, I had the key. She gave me the key for it." But I was perfectly comfortable and at home. I probably transcribed a couple intuitive reports and did this and that and read exciting metaphysical books, and it was just like, it felt so good to be there that I was okay with that. Yeah. So, yeah, we always, if there was, whoever's living in the school was gonna be gone, then they had somebody set the school while they were gone. So there was always somebody in the school.
Okay.
So you're right in harmony with that.
Yeah.
So that energy was always there, and attention, and love.
I remember that.
All these things can be imagined. At one time, there was no school of metaphysics. Somebody or somebody's people imagined it. And then other people came along later and kept imagining and received the picture and kept imagining what that picture was, and then added whatever they added to that picture. School of metaphysics started with an image. It once didn't exist. It started as an image, an idea, an image that was held until it becomes so strong and real that it was here. And then image from going from one place, Springfield, to all these other cities, and Hamlin College, and people moved. And if nobody had imaged anybody moving to other cities, none of your schools other than Springfield would be here tonight. But somebody imagined developing teachers and directors that would move to other cities, and area directors that would open schools and would move to those schools and cities and live there and build a school. Somebody imagined it, and that's why somebody imagined a college of metaphysics, but we didn't have it right now. That's all imagination. That's all images. It all started as an image, and then it became real. It became physical, and that's the same way that an individual branch can be. And there was over 100 students at one time in that original school, Springfield. And there, in the Columbia that I was in, there was 25 when I started, and a year later when I moved, there was 75. And there was like 5, 6, 7 teachers. People waited in line. And I said, in order for me to teach, I'm going to have to wait forever. There's like 3 or 4 people ahead of me. And in Des Moines, that teacher's already, the one teacher was the director, and she was teaching 3 nights a week. And so I could teach immediately. And as soon as I got up there, I said, I want to teach 3 nights a week. And she said, okay. And so I got to teach the next 3 classes. And I was teaching 3 nights a week, and she was. And we built it up to over 30 students while I was there. That was imagined. I wanted it. She wanted it. If I was going to go all the way up there, I was not going to do it half-baked. I was going to go all in. Yes, I was working a full-time job. I had a career. I was working in the banking industry. I was working in corporate America. And I taught 3 nights a week and gave a lecture on the 4th night. No, that's not true. Once or twice a month I gave a lecture on the 4th night. But when I was in Kansas City, because I was the only teacher there and I was the one who built it, I taught 4 nights a week, and I did give a lecture or a short course on the 5th night. If I wasn't a teacher meeting that week, so it was about 2 times. And I built it. We built it. They built it. I had an image.
So this
Images.
This is what I wrote down. I'm gonna share it. And I imagine the day when everyone in the world, each individual, knows that I and the Father are one. I imagine the day when everyone in the world knows that I and the Father are one. Like, it's not really appealing to me to be running around teaching every minute and all this other stuff. It's not, I don't get excited about that, but I do get excited to see a world where everyone knows that they are the creator, they and the creator are one.
Then the School of Metaphysics is a perfect place, because the 12 people, or 13 if you count Mary, the greatest one, what were they called that stuck close with him? What were they called?
The crew, the apostles, the disciples.
They weren't apostles, they weren't
Disciples.
crews. They were called disciples, yes. They called Paul the apostle because he wasn't a disciple, so they tried to cover up the fact that he wasn't a disciple by calling him an apostle. He wasn't a disciple. He came along after Jesus was long gone. He came from Turkey, moved down through there, killed a bunch of Christians, and all of a sudden he wanted to lead the Christian church. That's the story of Paul. So, and he said he met Jesus on the road, but he didn't have a witness to it. And since he said he met Jesus in spirit, there have been thousands of other people that said they met Jesus in spirit too. Everybody can say that. You might praise Jesus. So that's the story of Paul. But he wasn't a disciple. But he had 12 disciples. point of that. What is, right, but I digress. Okay, so the 12 disciples comes from the word discipline. So, so how did Jesus, what was the main, now they weren't where Jesus were, they were disciples. So what must Jesus have done, just like the Buddha did, before he got to oneness? He was disciplined. The school is the best vehicle on the planet, bar none, to teach the steps of discipline in the mind, visualization, concentration first, visualization, meditation, healing, breath work, life force, doing their life force every day. It's a step-by-step process, and then the second cycle for really longer exercises so you can master those things. It is the best vehicle on the planet for developing mastery of the mind, bar none, period. I've been around, taught 50 years now. I know that's true. Consciously and subconsciously and superconsciously. So that's why it's on the planet. So Jesus had mastered that, and Buddha had too. So you want oneness? They both said, I'm one with God, whatever. It starts with mental discipline. This is the place, best place on the planet to learn that. You want the fast track on the way to Christ, Buddha? This is the place. How many more hours I get?
I think it seems like you're digressing a lot. So.
You're done.
Okay, is there any other question? Anybody got anything I said? That's the first time I've always liked that phrase, but I think that's the first time I've ever said it. I enjoyed saying it, but I digress. So, any other questions? Okay, then, you know what to do. I've told you. Now you have to choose to do that. Okay, thank you very much.
Well, I think we're complete for tonight.
I was